see Santa Claus tonight, you better run, boy. You better run for your life.
Hello and welcome to another bad movie review. This time we are looking at Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is a 1984 film, runs about an hour and 24 minutes. There are multiple versions of this, all of which are at least rated R, but I watched the unrated version. Now, this was directed by Charles Sellier Jr. and has quite the reputation of a film. So it starts with a family going to visit the paternal grandfather at the Utah mental facility when young Billy Chapman is left alone with his grandfather. His grandfather bestows some wisdom upon him, and it's about as crazy as you get. Grandpa's creepy, and he says how Santa is going to punish the wicked and the naughty. The word naughty comes up quite a bit. It's kind of a reoccurring theme here. On the way home, a thief dressed like Santa robs a convenience store or gas station, that's a little unclear, kills the clerk, and makes off with $31 of loot. The crook's car breaks down and Billy's family comes across the scene and offers to help. Well, that doesn't go very well for anybody involved. Billy's parents end up getting killed in front of him, and it's just him and his baby brother left alive. We never find out what happened to that original killer, but Billy is sent to an orphanage run by some nuns. Now we fast forward a few years to 1974, and Billy is in the orphanage, still where he draws a picture of a dead Santa Claus and reindeer. Now, because of this and various other things, he is subjected to very harsh discipline by the overbearing mother superior, whose idea of mental health treatment is punishment, beatings, and tying kids down to beds, apparently. She believes in absolute punishment for being naughty. He finally has a flashback of his parents' murders when he sees two people having sex, and that kind of snowballs everything into what ends up happening later. Now, Mother Superior does try and force Billy to sit on Santa's lap when he comes to the orphanage on Christmas, but of course that backfires horribly, and it's implied that Billy is probably being punished very harshly for quite some time afterward. But we jump ahead to 1984. Billy is now about 18, and he ends up getting a job at a toy store. As Christmas approaches, however, Billy starts to get a little weird and starts acting a little odd. He's starting to lose his marbles. He ends up having to play the Santa on Christmas Eve at Ira's Toys, and of course that sets everything into a spiral because his boss says you must become Santa Claus. As far as body count goes, I counted 12 plus one innocent snowman, and there were 6 plot points. There was a creative use of deer antlers that I haven't seen since Salem's Lot, but the real thing about this movie that is most notable for controversy is the fact that it was pulled from theaters after right around 2 weeks. Now, it did have a longer run in some areas like Boston, but it was largely pulled out of theaters, and that hurt it quite a bit. I think it opened around the same time as Nightmare on Elm Street, so it was actually doing pretty well at first, and it had a pretty strong positive reaction seemingly from the young people that watched it, but of course the moral crusaders came out in force to get it pulled, and that was largely due to the marketing. As usual, people didn't actually see the movie before whining about it. They mostly just complained about the commercials because the commercials were being played all throughout the day, and it was scaring children and getting all the housewives worked up. So all the people with too much free time got together and created a controversy that really didn't apply. The main complaint seemed to be the fact that the commercials made it look like Santa Claus was the killer and not the fact that this was a psychotic individual. And this was not the first time there had been a killer Santa in movies. Christmas Evil had come out about 4 years prior to this one, and Tales from the Crypt had come out over a decade before, if I remember correctly. So it's not like this was the first cinema version of a Santa Claus killer. It's just the one that made it look the most like it was actually Santa Claus and not somebody dressed like Santa Claus. At least that seems to be the general consensus. It was mostly due to these 30-second television ads that created this, but there was a group called Citizens Against Movie Madness, and they created a national protest. They were out out picketing theaters and singing Christmas carols to harass people, basically. So that ended up hurting it until it came out on VHS. Now, the original theatrical cut was only 79 minutes because several minutes had to be cut out. When it first came out on VHS, there was an uncut version that was longer, and now if you want to see the uncut version, you have to track down the Blu-ray or DVD version from Anchor Bay. Was really cool because it has the uncut version, which unfortunately splices in some damaged footage, but it's the only copy they seem to be able to find that had the originals, so they kind of interwove it in there, and you can tell because it's a lot grainier and the colors are a little different, so it was probably stored improperly. But that's what happens with celluloid film. If it's not stored properly, it gets a little rough. Still, if you want to see the extra gore and a couple of bonus plot points, that's the way to go. And like I said, my copy is the uncut one, and it had 6 plot and 12 body count, plus the Snowman. Don't forget poor Snowman. He didn't do nothing. There are no children that die in the film, despite what some people still seem to believe about the film. And I'm actually surprised because this is just a slasher film. It's not anything real stand out. It's a little over the top in parts, has some really memorable lines, but it's not anywhere near as controversial as they tried to make it sound with the protests. But overall, I am going to recommend this. I thought it was a lot of fun. It holds up pretty well as a slasher film, and with a high body count and some pretty recognizable names like Linnea Quigley, whose name I'm never going to pronounce right, I don't think, and Hare. And it's really surprising that the controversy was what it was, since this movie is probably, by today's standards, very tame. There's not that much gore. There is some blood, but it's not nearly as gory as they tried to make it out to be. Although some of the more modern films, like Terrifier, are going to be way bloodier and gorier than this. For its time, this was kind of an average slasher. So aside from the Christmas theme and the controversy that was ginned up around it, there's not that much that separates this from a lot of other slasher films. For me, though, I thought it really kind of stands out as a piece of cinema history because of the controversy that was surrounding it and the fact that it has some really hilarious one-liners and some kind of silly scenes. So I thought this was an appropriate cheese film. Definitely worth a watch for horror fans, and if you like slasher films, this is definitely going to be in your wheelhouse. It's good classic 80s horror, so definitely give it a chance if you're into slasher flicks or you're an 80s movie fan. It's got a lot to offer. It's definitely good cheese all around. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.